I've never arrested an innocent person, so in my mind, yes. Do you hear stories about unique stories about where something happened where it wasn't fair to somebody? Of course, all the time, but to my knowledge, I've never. I have pretty solid cases, but I mean, it's not a perfect system. So, like, what would the perfect system be, and how do you know, nothing's ever going to be fair to everybody. So,
I think the criminal justice is fair. However, I think due to the whole due process, it's very time consuming and it costs a lot of money to go through the justice system. As far as like crimes and going through the process of going through the court and all the processes are required, I think the process makes sense. It just takes a very long time to execute. And that's why I think, you know, multiple high-level crimes, it takes, you know, anywhere from 2 to 3 years to go through the whole process of going through the court system, and then you got to go back and then, you know, go through as far as, you know, a death sentence. That takes another 2 years to go through that whole process. But I think overall the justice system is good. It just would be nicer if it was more efficient from a time aspect and cost aspect.
Yes, I think that the criminal justice is fair. I feel like they're doing a great job of taking care of these bad guys and locking them away, and I feel like they're doing their job, and I think it's fair what they do.
Do you think we can do a better job of preventing crime?
I think we should. We could do a better job. I think some people do get away with certain things, which I feel like they do it because they don't, like recently the police situation. Like, I feel like it's weird that, you know, everyone's like ganging up on the police, like they're not doing their job. They're doing their job. If anything, I feel like everyone's making them do less of their job because of all the problems that they say that the police cause. It's not them. I truly believe it's the people, and the police should definitely become a little bit more strict on these guys.
It depends on who you ask. If you're asking me, no, it's not fair. Because man was not made to be caged up.
Sure. You know, I say that because, again, if the law says to drive 55 miles an hour, I drive 55 miles an hour. If it says to not go through a red light, I won't go through a red light. If it says don't steal, I don't steal. So does it affect me from the standpoint of, is it fair? Yeah, because I do my best not to break the law. I listen to what it has to say and I follow it. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely. Have I been penalized by making mistakes? Not by the law. If it says don't drink and drive, I won't drink and drive. So I never had to worry about, you know, being incarcerated or going up in front of a judge. I think that the law offers people who are first-time criminals, if you will, or brought up on charges for the first time, they give them an opportunity to better themselves. They don't throw them in jail right away. That I know. And so I think it is fair. Do I think it could be tougher? Sure. I mean, there are some countries that have a tougher system than we do. And what I'd like to see, though, is more of a corrections, I think, in our jail system. I would like to see us try to help fix the criminals so they don't go back and do the crime. So I don't know what that entails, and I don't know what comes of that, but I would like to see like programs in place where people have broken the law and are in jail for numerous amounts of time have the opportunity to be successful when they leave. I know of a couple people who have been that. You know, they've been in jail incarcerated for quite some time, and then they come out and they figure out a way to better their lives. And then there are people, there's probably more that don't than that do. There's probably less success stories. I don't necessarily believe that they deserve all the bells and whistles that we do you know, I don't want to say the free area, but I don't think, you know, they deserve the nicest of food or the nicest of clothing, the nicest of TVs. I don't think they deserve those types of things. They broke the law. There has to be a consequence. It's no different than when you punish a child for doing something wrong. There's consequences for their actions, and for that they have to pay a price. Right? That I do
believe. Either opportunity, like crimes of opportunity. You know, people that leave their car door unlocked. You know, yeah, somebody's gonna swing by, and you know, a kid's gonna come by and steal your change out of your car. So I think if, you know, the good people do what they can to avoid being victims, you know, it destroys those opportunities. And I also think drugs and alcohol are probably the most common factor amongst crime. I think people either do crimes to get high or because they're high or drunk. You know, so I think a lot of people do things when they're intoxicated either by alcohol or drugs that they wouldn't do, you know, if they had a more clear mind.
I think the number one cause for crime is probably lack of education, followed closely by poverty, people's lifestyles that kind of force them into maybe not making such great decisions.
What to say, except for as far as criminal acts, 90% of the people are usually forced into it.
Forced into committing
Yeah.
crime.
Yeah. They're left with no opportunities in life.
I think people do things out of a necessity. I'll be honest. I believe that if you live in poverty and you have to steal to survive, that's why. I think if you have, if you're brought up in a certain environmental state, then that kind of attributes to it. And so the number one cause of crime, I do believe it. I think a lot of it has to do with your environment.
Since Adam and Eve, there have been crimes, and it's always going to be crimes. It's up to the individuals in this society that make up laws and regulations. But crime is just like breathing.
Passion, greed, insanity. Crime refers to any unlawful activity that is punishable by the state. Generally, crime can be said to be an activity that causes harm to an individual, the community, or state. When we think of criminals, we imagine the worst of the worst. We imagine things like murder, rape, child abuse. Some don't realize these criminals can be living in the same community, neighborhood, or even household. But how could we? They look like normal people and do normal things. They fit in with the public until they decide to lash out. According to interviews, people seem to think the cause of crime is the product of our environment, and the government is setting us up to fail. Being the president, you should be listening to us. How are you going to change things?